One of the important developments which occurred during the time that I worked for Mr. Hollowell during this period was, of course, the coming on of SNCC. All of us who were serious about the eradication and elimination of discrimination in Atlanta and who had been working toward that end, many of us were quite encouraged to see students organize and develop strategies that were a little different from what our generation had done, different from our strategies. Of course, we were very, very much committed to the law as a means and method of eliminating and eradicating discrimination. However, we were greatly encouraged to see these young people assemble at Pascal's, where we all ate. Hoswell's office was right across the street. We were very encouraged to see these young people, frankly, change the prevailing attitude about what strategy really works. They were calling for action, resolution of problems much faster, and they were willing to use the law in addition to protest as we know it. And of course, the law firm where I worked was very much involved in that, and Howard was very much involved in providing support and assistance to them. But in my opinion, as a member of the community, not just a member of Hollowell's law firm, SNCC, in my opinion, moved the entire movement forward. Even though many people were concerned about their approach, I was not, and many of us were not, because I saw it as being, frankly, a part of what we were doing in the law. When you graduated from Howard, however, they made it very, very clear that your responsibility was to use the law for the benefit of your community. And we were totally committed to that. But to see these young people in the AU Center step out and say not maybe, but no, not later, but now, and to see how it worked was great encouragement to all of us.
One of the things that Councilmember wanted me to ask you about was anything pertaining to, that you can recall, pertaining to the legal aspect of the student's lawsuit against the city? If you can recall anything about that?
No, I don't. Was SNCC's lawsuit?
The Atlanta student movement?
Yes. No, you said, was there anything I recalled about?
The Atlanta student movements, and it included SNCC.
Yeah, I thought you asked me something about a lawsuit.
Yes, they brought a lawsuit against the city.
I'm not familiar with the details of that. I remember hearing about that.
So
yes.
You mainly helped with getting them.
I was a law clerk working for Howard, and for lawyers. But no, I'm not acquainted with the details of any lawsuit that they had against the city.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, do you want to talk a little bit more about Donald Hollowell himself?
Well, Mr. Hollowell represented most of the plaintiffs that Mr. Hollowell was involved with were members of the community who had been victims of discrimination really in small cities and towns across Georgia and the Southeast. I can remember one of the important cases that we worked on was in Augusta, where 6 young black men had been indicted for rape and were on trial for murder. Howard was very much involved in that case as well. and it gave me a real firsthand look at the kind of justice that we really had in this state. Mr. Hollowell was involved in very difficult and dangerous cases, representing plaintiffs who had no money, had nothing, but who, of course, in many instances, refused to just accept their fate. The NAACP, Inc. Legal Defense Fund, was involved with us in many cases, and we had an opportunity to, of course, see the great Constance Baker Motley at work. And but a lot of the cases of that law firm involved very poor defendants who had really been subjected to a kind of treatment that it's just unbelievable. Vernon says even now, because Vernon worked for Hollowell in the group before me, and Vernon says even now when we talk about it that what we saw during those days when we worked for Hollowell throughout this state made Al-Qaeda look like Boy Scouts. We grew up with these and observed these terrorists in there. It was unbelievable going into those courtrooms where you were not even respected, not even being able to eat in the courthouse. But Mr. Hollowell was, he was a master of that situation. I learned a great deal. I mostly did research, kept my mouth shut, looked and listened. But I thank God to this day that I got a chance to be on the front lines to see the very first stage when blacks in this city through SNCC and a law firm like Hollowell actually fight back and say, no, we can't take 10 more years. We're not going to take 15 more years. That started here, and I think that the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, when Julian was president, they led the way. It had not been done before. And except for that contribution, I don't think we would have moved as fast. Because if there's one thing I've learned since then and over the years, where I elected to use government as a strategy, and that is, I don't know the exact quote, but Frederick Douglass said something to the effect that the amount of oppression that people will be required to take is in direct proportion to how much they are willing to take. And I think it was SNCC that first acted that out. There's a line where you have to stop taking. I still believe that's true today. And some people believe the line, by the way, has been crossed. If a people cannot protect their children from being murdered by people who wear guns under the guise of law,